The New York Knicks have been searching for consistent production from their bench unit throughout the early portion of the season, and in their matchup against the Chicago Bulls this past weekend, they finally received a breakthrough performance from veteran guard Josh Hart. After struggling mightily through the opening games of the campaign, Hart delivered his best outing of the young season, scoring 14 points in a commanding 128-116 victory over the previously undefeated Bulls. Hart's journey to this point has been anything but smooth. The veteran wing missed the season opener and then endured a difficult 4-game stretch where he converted just 4 of 19 field goal attempts. For a player accustomed to being a reliable contributor throughout his career, this level of inefficiency represented a significant departure from his usual standards. The struggles were particularly concerning given that head coach Mike Brown had assigned Hart a crucial role as the team's sixth man, a position that requires immediate impact and consistent production when entering games. The transition to coming off the bench has presented Hart with challenges he hadn't fully anticipated. After spending years establishing himself as a starting-caliber player who logged heavy minutes on a nightly basis, adjusting to a reserve role has proven more difficult than many observers expected. Hart himself acknowledged these difficulties, admitting that finding consistency and rhythm has been an uphill battle. The reduced minutes and altered routine have disrupted the familiar patterns he had developed over his professional career. Compounding these adjustment issues, Hart is also dealing with significant nerve pain that has plagued him throughout this season. Despite the discomfort and the temptation to take time off to fully recover, Hart has chosen to tough it out and remain available for his teammates. This decision reflects his competitive nature and commitment to the organization, but it has also meant playing through physical limitations that have impacted his on-court effectiveness. The nerve pain represents the kind of nagging injury that doesn't necessarily prevent a player from competing but can significantly affect their shooting touch, explosiveness, and overall comfort level during games. Against the Bulls, however, Hart finally broke through these various obstacles. He connected on 5 of his 10 field goal attempts, displaying much better shot selection and confidence than he had shown in previous outings. More importantly, his overall energy and engagement level appeared noticeably elevated. Hart brought the kind of hustle and intensity that has defined his career, diving for loose balls, crashing the offensive glass, and making winning plays that don't always appear in the box score. Following the victory, Hart addressed reporters with a mixture of relief and determination. He emphasized the importance of playing with joy and being himself on the court, suggesting that he may have been overthinking his new role and allowing the pressure to affect his natural instincts. By simplifying his approach and focusing on the fundamental aspects of his game that made him successful throughout his career, Hart was able to rediscover his effectiveness. The bench unit as a whole benefited from Hart's improved play. Off-season acquisitions Gershon Yabusele and Jordan Clarkson have both experienced their own adjustment periods with the Knicks system. Yabusele has dealt with inconsistent playing time, occasionally falling out of the rotation entirely when Brown opted for different lineup combinations. Clarkson, known for his streaky shooting throughout his career, has yet to find a consistent rhythm with his new team. Having Hart perform at a higher level takes some pressure off these other reserves and provides Brown with more flexibility in how he manages his rotations. The victory over Chicago held additional significance because it snapped the Bulls' perfect start to the season. Coming into Madison Square Garden undefeated, Chicago represented a legitimate test for a Knicks team that had dropped 3 consecutive games after winning their first 2 contests. The Knicks responded with one of their most complete performances of the young season, with contributions coming from throughout the roster. Hart's resurgence played a meaningful role in this team-wide success, providing the kind of spark off the bench that can shift momentum and energy during crucial stretches. As the Knicks move forward, they'll need Hart to build on this performance and establish some consistency in his new role. The team's championship aspirations depend heavily on the starting unit featuring Brunson, Towns, and their other franchise cornerstones, but they also require reliable production from the second unit to maintain leads and keep their stars fresh for crucial moments. Hart's willingness to embrace his role, play through pain, and continue working to find his rhythm suggests that this breakthrough performance against Chicago may represent a turning point rather than an isolated occurrence in what the Knicks hope will be a successful season. The New York Knicks have witnessed a remarkable transformation in forward Mikal Bridges' performance this season, and according to insights shared by head coach Mike Brown, the secret behind the success lies in the extensive preparatory work the player undertook during the summer months. Bridges, who joined the Knicks organization through a high-profile trade during the offseason, has emerged as one of the team's most consistent performers in the early stages of the campaign. The journey to this level of excellence wasn't accidental or spontaneous. Brown revealed that Bridges committed himself to an intensive training regimen throughout the summer, focusing on multiple aspects of his game that needed refinement. The forward worked diligently on his offensive repertoire, defensive positioning, and overall conditioning to ensure he would be ready to make an immediate impact when the regular season commenced. What makes Bridges' success particularly noteworthy is the seamless manner in which he has integrated into the Knicks system. Joining a new franchise always presents challenges, especially when that team has championship aspirations and an established core of players. However, Bridges has navigated these obstacles with remarkable composure, demonstrating the kind of professionalism and adaptability that coaches and teammates value greatly. The forward's preparation extended beyond physical conditioning and skill development. Brown emphasized that Bridges also invested considerable time studying the Knicks playbook, understanding offensive schemes, and learning how to complement the playing styles of teammates like Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. This mental preparation has proven just as valuable as the physical work, allowing Bridges to make quick decisions on the court and position himself effectively within the team's strategic framework. One of the most impressive aspects of Bridges' early season performance has been his consistency on both ends of the floor. Offensively, he has provided reliable scoring while maintaining excellent shot selection and efficiency. His ability to knock down open three-pointers, attack closeouts, and finish around the basket has given the Knicks another dimension in their offensive attack. Defensively, Bridges has brought the kind of versatility and intensity that championship contending teams desperately need, capable of guarding multiple positions and disrupting opposing offenses with his length and anticipation. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed with how Bridges approaches each game with the same level of preparation and focus. There have been no noticeable letdowns in his effort or concentration, regardless of the opponent or the circumstances surrounding any particular matchup. This consistency reflects the professional habits he developed during those crucial summer months when he was laying the foundation for this successful start. Teammates have also noticed the difference in Bridges' game and his overall approach. His willingness to embrace his role, communicate effectively on the court, and maintain a positive attitude has helped him earn respect within the locker room. In a league where egos can sometimes clash and chemistry can be fragile, Bridges has proven to be exactly the kind of teammate that championship organizations covet. Looking ahead, the Knicks will continue to rely heavily on Bridges as they navigate through what promises to be a competitive season in the Eastern Conference. The fact that he entered training camp already in peak condition and fully prepared has given the team a significant advantage, allowing Brown to implement game plans without worrying about whether Bridges will be able to execute his assignments. As the season progresses and the intensity increases, particularly once the playoffs arrive, the work Bridges put in during the summer will likely pay even greater dividends for a Knicks organization determined to make a deep postseason run. The basketball world continues buzzing with speculation surrounding a potential blockbuster transaction that could reshape the entire landscape of the National Basketball Association. The New York Knicks have emerged as the focal point of ongoing discussions regarding a possible trade for Milwaukee Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo, a two-time most valuable player and former NBA Finals MVP who led Milwaukee to a championship in 2021. The speculation intensified dramatically following a stunning report from prominent NBA insider Shams Charania, who revealed that Antetokounmpo had privately communicated to Milwaukee's front office that if he were to leave the Bucks organization, the Knicks would be the only franchise he would consider joining. This revelation sent shockwaves throughout the league and immediately positioned New York as the primary destination in any future trade scenario involving the Greek Freak. Bleacher Report analyst Andy Bailey has now labeled Antetokounmpo as the quintessential dream trade target for the Knicks organization. However, Bailey acknowledges that executing such a monumental transaction presents numerous complications and challenges that extend far beyond simple negotiations between two franchises. The timing, financial considerations, and asset management all play crucial roles in determining whether this hypothetical deal could ever materialize into reality. In the immediate future, a mid-season trade appears highly improbable for several compelling reasons. The Milwaukee Bucks invested heavily during the recent offseason to construct a competitive roster around their franchise cornerstone, bringing in additional talent and making strategic moves designed specifically to keep Antetokounmpo satisfied and committed to the organization. The front office would be extremely reluctant to abandon their championship aspirations for the current season, particularly after dedicating so many resources to building a contender capable of competing for another title. The more realistic timeline for any potential transaction would be the summer of 2026, when circumstances may align more favorably for all parties involved. By that point, Antetokounmpo will be entering the final year of his current contract, creating a situation where the Bucks could face an agonizing decision about their franchise's future direction. If Milwaukee fails to achieve championship success over the next 2 seasons, management might determine that trading their superstar represents the most prudent course of action rather than risking losing him for nothing in free agency. However, the Knicks face significant obstacles in assembling a trade package attractive enough to pry Antetokounmpo away from Milwaukee. New York has already depleted much of its asset reserve through recent blockbuster acquisitions, most notably the trades that brought Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns to Madison Square Garden. These transactions consumed multiple first-round draft picks and young players who might otherwise have served as valuable trade chips in negotiations for another superstar. Bailey suggests that Antetokounmpo himself could provide the solution to this dilemma by making his intentions absolutely clear to potential suitors. If the Greek freak publicly announces that he refuses to sign a long-term contract extension with any franchise other than the Knicks, it would dramatically narrow the field of competing bidders and potentially reduce the asking price that Milwaukee could demand in trade discussions. No team wants to surrender premium assets for a superstar who has already declared his intention to leave at the first opportunity. The analyst also proposes an alternative scenario involving a 3-team trade structure that could help facilitate the transaction. Under this framework, the Knicks might trade Karl-Anthony Towns to a third franchise in exchange for additional draft picks and assets, which could then be redirected to Milwaukee as part of the Antetokounmpo acquisition. This creative approach would allow New York to generate the necessary trade capital without completely mortgaging their future or leaving the roster dangerously thin. Despite the persistent rumors and speculation, Bailey maintains a realistic perspective about the likelihood of this trade actually occurring. He characterizes Antetokounmpo landing in New York as a long shot, acknowledging that numerous factors would need to align perfectly for the deal to come together. The Bucks would need to experience significant disappointment over the next 2 seasons. Antetokounmpo would need to maintain his desire to join specifically the Knicks rather than exploring other options, and New York would need to preserve enough assets to construct a competitive offer. Nevertheless, the sheer volume of smoke surrounding this potential transaction makes it impossible to ignore completely. When a player of Antetokounmpo's caliber expresses interest in a specific destination, NBA executives pay attention regardless of how unlikely the scenario might appear in the present moment. The Knicks have demonstrated their willingness to make bold moves and take calculated risks in pursuit of championship contention, as evidenced by their recent aggressive trading activity. For now, Giannis Antetokounmpo remains firmly entrenched as the centerpiece of the Milwaukee Bucks franchise, and the organization continues building around him with championship aspirations. But as the summer of 2026 approaches and his contract situation becomes increasingly relevant, the situation will undoubtedly become more intriguing. The Knicks will be monitoring developments closely, positioning themselves to make a serious push if circumstances create an opportunity to add one of the game's most dominant players to their already talented roster. The basketball world will be watching closely to see whether this dream scenario eventually transforms into reality or remains merely a tantalizing possibility that never materializes.